remember, those that were in the room, we were talking about terminology, semantics. These are my words. If you don't think configure, orchestrate are the right words, then let's just live with it. We talked up to now, what does it take to deliver an application? Now let's talk about what does it take to deliver an ADC? Well, you got to build it. How big of an instance size? How much CPU? How much RAM? How many network interfaces? Will they have public IPs? Will they have multiple private IPs? Where are you going to source this image? Is it coming from a cloud marketplace, or are you going to upload it? Then you got to deploy it. So now you're going to say, well, what location am I putting this in? What resource group? That's an Azure word. What security group? What storage account? And then ultimately you need to start the VM. So now you've just got a VM. It may have LoadMaster software on it, it may have KEMP 360 software on it, it may have Vision software on it, but it's just a VM. So now you've got to go through and get it a license. You want to then probably configure certain options. The LoadMaster has a WUI timeout of like, I don't know, 3 minutes. It's so annoying that the default is so small. I immediately, when I start a LoadMaster, change it to 86,400 seconds. But I have to do that by hand today. I also I always make my WUI port 8443. That's just because I came from cloud. Then you need to orchestrate, and again, if that's the wrong word, but you need to get virtual services in there, you need to get real servers under the virtual services, you might want some WAF rules, you might have some standard content rules, you might want to take a backup of it, now it's nice and clean, and you might want to let other things know that you've done this. You might want to tell a CMDB that there's a new VM in town. You might want to tell the NOC to start watching it. And then finally, wouldn't it be nice if before you turn this over, you validated it? You made sure it actually worked. Now, some of this can be done today with things like deployment templates in Azure. There's even I understand Ansible for Azure now, or maybe it was public for Azure, I don't know. But the problem with that is those end at deploy. They're going to say, here's your running VM, have a nice life. So what we've done is invested fairly heavily, and soon to be even more heavily, in something we call master deployment. Master deployment is a PowerShell script. We're changing it from a script into a SaaS, but that doesn't interest you. Today it's a PowerShell script. And unlike deployment templates in Ansible and Chef and Puppet, it can go beyond build and deploy. It can do configure, orchestrate, and validate. And more importantly, it can do it in more places. We are finding almost every day someone is announcing a new PowerShell wrapper. AWS has a PowerShell wrapper. Rackspace has a PowerShell wrapper. Cloud VPS has a PowerShell wrapper. Everybody seems to be getting on the PowerShell wrapper bandwagon. And so what that allows us to do is build something that looks like this. We have a master deployment script. It is driven today by a configuration file, a fairly complex one, you can imagine. It then reads in whatever wrappers it needs. KEMP has always had, well, not always, but for a very long time has had a load balancer wrapper. So you've always had a wrapper that could do basic load balance, well, everything that the load balancer RESTful API could do. But the wrapper doesn't have any logic. It's just function definitions. It doesn't say, as if this is the primary NIC, you can do this. If this is the secondary NIC, you can do this. So we've added some additional wrappers, 360 Central and ALSI. And now we've added in the AWS wrapper. The Azure wrapper is, as you can imagine, integrated into PowerShell, so there's no need to externalize it. And what we can do is with a variety of different deployments, so I can have a deployment that says start me a new KEMP 360, start me a LoadMaster HA pair, start me a new SPLA, Mila Loadmaster and license it against this KEMP 360 against a variety of different clouds.